Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket aces. In this hand, we are at a full table. This is a 10 NL game. I get aces in the small blind, and we have an early position player raise to 3 big blinds. He's playing 32-6-1, so it tends to be a loose passive. I've got a lot of hands on him. He is a losing player. When we look at early position, his raise versus sin stat looks to be about 8% or so. I'm putting his opening range something like this from early position, so something pretty decent. Definitely something pretty decent. And cutoff calls. Cutoff is playing loose. He's definitely a bit more aggressive than the opener. We can see he's 62% from VPIP. For that cutoff, 62% VPIP from the cutoff. His 3-bet stats 8%, so only 2 out of 24. His called 2-bet stats 46%, so this guy's going to actually be fairly wide. And I'm going to tell you, I'm somewhat surprised by this range here. This is 46%. I wouldn't have really thought that it was going to be this big, but putting together 46%. And excluding like queens plus ace king, because I'm going to assume he would have 3-bet those. You're looking at suited aces, suited kings, offsuit aces. You're looking at suited gappers, suited 1 gappers, suited 3 gappers for the most part. You're looking at offsuit gappers or offsuit connectors, offsuit 1 gappers. I think the main thing is these. In order to get up to 56%, we have to add these offsuit hands. So overall, he's got a lot of cards that are going to be fairly weak. Let's take that off. And then it's to me, and I got aces. So this is a no-brainer. We're going to raise this. We're going to raise it up to 12 at a minimum. Actually, I think if it was 3, I probably would have been a standard 11 or 12 big blind versus 1 player. So we probably should have made it to like 14 or 15 to account for the caller. What range do I do this with? Well, this is our 3-bet. So a kings plus ace king, definitely 3-betting those. And then we've got 3-bet or call where we add these extra hands. Where we add the extra hands. Are we good for raising all of those extra hands? Well, he has not folded to a pre-flop 3-bet at all. This guy has a little bit, but he didn't really make the 3-bet. There's one thing we have to be aware of is this player short stacked. He's got 40 big blinds right now, so we raise to 12. He calls, or we raise to 12, and he wants to play. He could just shove it all in. That being said, we know that this range is going to be fairly tight. Doesn't look like he's folding, so I think I would probably restrict my range a little bit to maybe something like this. 10s, maybe I'd play them, but you have to be real cautious with these hands because villain could have these pocket pairs, could have higher pocket pairs in it. But what we don't want to do is raise with some weaker cards, knowing that it's unlikely that he would ever fold. But what we're doing is we're getting hands out here. You could see, there could be some really good flops for us with some of these hands. That could allow us to take a stack. So I think this is going to be my 3-bet range. I raised it 12. Villain calls. I'm going to say he's probably not folding anything in this range. And then this villain calls too. So that's strange. And that's kind of a question of does his range get smaller? Versus that 3-bet, or is he like, well, I already called and this other guy called, so I'm gonna call too. So maybe we just leave the entire big range here and possibly narrow it down post flop. Flop comes down 9-5-3 rainbow. That really shouldn't hit anyone, and that's actually a pretty decent flop because the hand that I'm most concerned with is this one. Not necessarily most concerned with, but what I'm hoping this player might have would be like a queens or jacks or tens. I think those are hands that probably wouldn't 4-bet. So they'd open raise and then they'd call. They're in his range. And they're overpairs. So if I lead and he has one of those, he might just come along and see what happens on the turn and then wake up with a big raise on the turn, and then we get it in and we could potentially double it up. This player, not so much. I think if he's going to come along, he's probably coming along with just a single pair. So on this board, since we made our 3-bet, I do think we're going to be firing out, making a C-bet again. I think we are including all of our 2-card backdoor flush draws. Get these. And it's probably questionable whether we use our overcards or not. You can see this guy's pretty stubborn. It looks like it actually takes 3 barrels to get this guy to fold, because his fold to C-bets is, well, this is 53% when he's out of position, but it's under 50%. We'll say his average is probably closer to like 40-45%, and then again 40-45% for the turn, and then it jumps up. So this guy is stubborn on the flop, and on the turn he's chasing, and that probably explains his losses right now. This guy, same thing. I think once he plays, it's probably unlikely that he folds. So he probably folds with any pair, any draw, no matter how light. So I don't think I would actually expand it much beyond this. 2-card backdoor flush draw, that's going to be our overcards. That's really what we're going to do, and that's it. So, I mean, we have a lot. The only ones we don't have are the hearts, and I think I'm okay with that. So I think that's what I'm going to C-bet. We're going to C-bet. Well, it's 37. This guy has 30.7. If we bet, that's probably what we bet. We just bet enough to push him in. I bet half pot because, again, I'm kind of focused on this guy, and I'm not sure if that's right. I'm not sure if that's right. This guy raises 37. So we're going to get rid of him. He folds. He was fairly weak. But he raises to 37 big blinds. Maybe he does it with pocket pair below the top card. Oops. Oh, hold on. Is that me? This is me. Betting those. We're betting 2-card backdoor flush draws. That's better. Now, once he raises, we probably give up our 2-card backdoor flush draws. That's what we're going to do. But the question is, what is he going to raise? I don't think he's raising with any of these bluffs. I don't think. Maybe he has 7s and 8s. Maybe he has a 10 because this is a board that probably doesn't hit me, especially if we have ace king, ace queen. And those are 2 hands that you could kind of put into my 3-betting range. Just standard. So I'm kind of looking like this. Is what he's doing that with, and that's actually pretty good for us because we basically beat everything here except the sets. So we figure we are ahead. I think we are calling. Question mark would be like 10s and jacks. Would we call 10s and jacks? I almost feel like we might have to because he could have 7s and 8s. So I think I'd call here with all of the overpairs. Minus our 2-card backdoor flush draws that I did it again. Oh, no, that's him. Probably the overpair. So we're folding. We went from like 75% down to like 50%. So we're getting rid of a third. I think we call. We check to him on the turn. If he bets again, then we're probably going to be dumping tens and jacks. We could possibly dump queens, because maybe kings doesn't 4-bet. But I think queens are going to be like our break point. You know, these will be sometimes call, sometimes fold. These are probably going to be all folds. Ace and king are going to be always call. And the reason being, if I call, I don't know if sevens and eights are going to be betting anymore. Not entirely sure if tens and jacks are going to be betting anymore either. So I think we could use that to our advantage. Now, could we raise? Yeah, if we raise, though, I think the only hands that are going to call us at that point will be sets. And probably aces, kings, and maybe queens. I don't think jacks and tens will call anymore. But that kind of gives us some more of that information if we just call. So if we check, if we call, then check the turn and he checks behind, I think it could be safe. We can safely say that he has one of these lower cards. We could get some values. We could then bet the river with our jacks and our queens, with having some confidence that we're probably ahead. So I called and I took that route of calling. I don't think we could kind of split it up and sometimes call and sometimes raise. So I raise with aces, but call with these. I don't think we can necessarily do that. I think base it on our number of combos. You see we've got 30 total. I don't think we have that large of hands. So I think we basically it's either call or 4-bet, or call or 3-bet here. So I chose to call. Flop comes to a diamond. That didn't help at all. Well, at least I don't think ace-4 could be there. Ace-4 could be there. So I checked, which is what my plan was, and now he shoves. At this point, he actually shoves, pushes me all in for 80. What is he going to do this with? I don't know if he's capable of doing it with top pair. Maybe the flush draw. Maybe he does that with top pair and the flush draw. With the overpair, I'm going to say probably not tens or jacks. So I'm looking at queens, kings, aces. Since I have aces, I'm looking at probably queens, maybe kings. And I think set could be there as well. So that's what he's looking at. When it comes to us, I think now we go with our plan. Queens, I'd probably fold queens and just call aces and kings. I think that's our play here. Just because of how Villain's a passive player. So I did call. River's the 8. I'm all in. So we get to see he shows jacks, and he did do it with the jacks. So that was kind of interesting. I thought jacks would be kind of the hands where he would start to freeze up once I called his raise, but he didn't. So we're going to take a note. This is RFI, 3 big blinds, and call a SB 3-bet to so RFI 3 big blinds in EP, and call small blind 3-bet 12 big blinds with jack of spades, jack of clubs. So min, raise, and then all in for, that was about 80% or so. All right, so 9 of spades, 5 of diamonds, 3 of clubs, 2 of diamonds, 8 of clubs. All right, so we got a note here. Would I change how I play this? No, I don't think so. I think we played it fairly well. I would be questioning maybe the play on the turn should I have come over the top, or was that call suitable because I'm sure a GTO is probably saying we should raise, but I think I went exploitative route under the assumption that like the lower pairs, like he could possibly raise with sevens, eights, tens, and jacks. And if he has one of those hands, he may then check the turn, which lets me know that my underpair, so like my kings and the queens, are probably good at that point. That we're not up against one of these big pairs. But now that we know he could do it, I would say the overpairs would make that probably not sevens and eights. So on a board like this, tens and jacks are probably making that raise. Maybe nines, if he's got the 9 in his range, like 9-10, 9-10 or 8-9. In which case, if those are the hands and he can shove it again, then maybe it is. Maybe we did do it, maximize our EV. So maybe it's making him think that we have like ace king, ace queen. Since we just called instead of raised. If we raised on the flop, maybe that gives him reason to fold. So I think the hand played okay. And we'll end it here. Nothing more to really add. All right, hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.